And Chloe Kobel with an enormous round of applause.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to start with saying how great it feels to be home around ocean-loving legends like yourself, instead of the complete opposite, really. I'm going to get started because this is going to be a long speech. Operation Grinstop took place from July to October this year on the Faroe Islands, a remote set of archipelagos on the tip of the North Atlantic Ocean, southeast of Iceland. This campaign's sole purpose was to expose, intervene and protect long-finned pilot whales from the island's terrifying 1,000-year-old tradition known as the Grind. Sea Shepherd Global volunteers from more than 30 nations, united as one, offshore crew and onshore crew. The land teams will play the crucial spotting and intervening role. We will be searching for fins to hopefully and successfully spot a pod before the locals did. We would then contact the boat crew with exact species identification and location information, and then they would track down the pod and guide them back out to sea away from the islands. 6 speedboats joined vessels Bridget Bardot and the Columbus. We were a solid family of ocean warriors. So, what is the Grind? The Grind is a macetation drive that dates back to the 1700s. Pilot whales are the main targets, though the Faroese will also drive and kill protected white-sided dolphins, risso dolphins and bottlenose dolphins, and have on occasion killed orcas. There are 23 approved killing beaches in the Faroe Islands, and if a pod is spotted by anyone, it is the law to inform the Grind master, who is usually the chief of police in one of the towns. He will then decide whether a Grind will take place, and if the answer is yes, then all madness breaks loose. Men leave work, children leave school, and then the boats will leave the harbour in search of the pod. And when they find them, the drive begins. The boats form a line behind the pod, circling and creating noise with stones underwater. This creates a solid barrier to which the whales must avoid. So they have no choice but to swim in the direction of the beach, which will soon hold their death. Hundreds of locals were already waiting quietly from the water's edge, and as the whales surge and become beached, the crowd runs towards them in a frenzy. The men carry hooks and knives 18 to 20 centimetres long, and the hooks are forced into the whale's blowhole and they drag them up the beach. And then the knives are sliced through the whale's neck to break the spinal cord. Many times the knife will not slice properly, so the men will hack at the whale. This can cause it to thrash and it will eventually break its own spine. The whalers claim that death occurs quickly, no longer than 2 minutes. We disagree. Counting the tremendous fear the whales are put through from the beginning of the drive to the beaching where they will finally die is not my definition of quick. The coves that were once blue and spectacular to see are now red with the blood of hundreds of whales. Over the past 3 centuries, the Faroese take on average 838 pilot whales and 75 dolphins each year. A usual drive will vary from 1 to 700 whales at once. The Faroese believe there is absolutely no danger of the whales becoming extinct, though the only means for abundance is by local site surveying. They estimate that there's over 700,000 pilots across the northeast Atlantic, but pilot whales are in fact listed as data deficient, meaning an accurate number is not actually known. Therefore, the Faroese, their beliefs that it's sustainable whaling, it's just completely unrealistic. The meat is divided up between the communities for an equal share. In earlier years, the whales were considered a gift from God. Now many people, after accepting their share, will secretly dump it or feed it to their pets. This is most likely due to their understanding of the toxic mercury contents in the whale's meat. Numerous tests confirm that pilot whale has an alarmingly high mercury content. toxic effects occur over time and can ultimately lead to damage of the brain, kidneys, lungs, and result in diseases like Parkinson's disease and Hunter-Russell syndrome, impairing speech and conflicting brain damage. Whale meat is not recommended to be eaten more than 1 to 2 times a month, and in 2008 the Chief Medical Officer of the Faroe Islands issued a dramatic public recommendation for the discontinuation of the use of pilot whale meat for human consumption. All these facts and health warnings, and yet you'll find whale meat recipes in tourist information brochures, and proud locals pursuing their opinions on continuing the grind forever. I cannot see any other reason for continuing the grind other than the power-craving rush the whalers get as they carry out their tradition in front of their sons. Can pride for a cultural stance be so overpowering that in the 21st century, these human beings can't see what they're doing is actually wrong? This is why we are here, and this is why we have Operation Grindstop. As an onshore volunteer for this campaign, I willingly accepted that I will be potentially risking my own life to save the lives of whales. This was a fear that I quickly overcame. My passion for the ocean and conservation and protecting these magnificent beings stood much stronger than my fear of violence. We accepted too that we would face arrest, endure extreme hostility, and witness unthinkable scenes. But we were ready, and although I was so fortunate as to not have encountered a grind, every waking minute I was there this September, along with my passionate crew, we were 100% ready to intervene and document the barbaric scenes. I was based on the island Suðuroy, which is the most southern island of the Faroes. This made us the most remote and hardest to reach for the boats. My team consisted of 20 of the most dedicated souls that I'd ever met. We share patrolled 7 killing bays, 15 hours a day. Our eyes were heavy and our minds were constantly reminded of the horrors we could quite possibly be trying to stop at any given moment. We had to be extremely vigilant and prepared. It was a bizarre feeling to watch the ocean and hoping not to see the creatures you would usually feel so blessed to see. While a small percentage of the Faroese are quietly against the grind, the majority continuously shocked me. I thought, how can this strikingly beautiful place in the world that has access to almost anything they desire be so far behind the rest of us? Surely they should know how important whales are for the ecosystem and the earth. Killing these whales and dolphins is not only disgustingly cruel, it also destabilises the ecosystem, causing changes in food supply for many species, thus screwing with the food chain. Whaling, overfishing and shark finning has significantly contributed towards huge environmental changes to the Earth's ecosystem, from increased levels of carbon dioxide to global warming. This year, 2 grindagraps took place. The first happened before the campaign begun, and the second only 1 week before I arrived. This slaughter took place on our neighbouring island, Sandoy, on the 30th of August. The crew tried their very best to intervene and protect the 33 pilot whales, but their valiant and passionate attempt was sadly unsuccessful. All 14 crew were arrested that day. The Danish Navy seized our boats and cuffed our volunteers. They will be questioned and locked up for the crime of interfering with the slaughter of whales. A day that I will never forget brings me to another deeply saddening occurrence that happened a weeks before my arrival. 5 rare and endangered bottlenose whales stranded themselves on a beach in Suðuroy. They were only beached for a couple of hours at most, and no rescue was attempted. The locals had unfortunately found them before we had. They killed them. 5 big, beautiful, extremely endangered bottlenose whales. Look them up, they're incredible beings. This was very hard for my team to document and witness, and for me to hear. A few weeks later, my team leader Matt and I were in the capital city for a few spare hours on patrol, when Matt decided to show me the skull of a sperm whale that had been spotted at a warehouse not far from where we were. That day, we got more than we bargained for. There, rotting away in crates, were the heads of the bottlenose whales. My stomach turned and my heart was hurting, and even in all their decomposing states, these creatures were magnificent. I just wanted to touch them, comfort them and tell them I was sorry for their undeserving fate that these humans had handed them. Whales are not only extremely intelligent, they are also self-aware. They recognise oneself, a characteristic only found in a few animal species. I'd now like to read you a section of an essay regarding the intelligence of cetaceans and how humans can perceive it. This is by our Captain Paul Watson. We willingly accept the idea of intelligence in a life form only if the intelligence displayed is on the same evolutionary wavelength as our own. Technology automatically indicates intelligence. An absence of technology translates into an absence of intelligence. Whales and dolphins do not display intelligence in a fashion recognisable to this conditioned perception of what intelligence is, and thus, for the most part, we are blind to a broader definition of what intelligence can be. Captain Paul Watson. Pilot whales are extremely intelligent, socially complex beings. They are also quite large cetaceans. Males can weigh up to 2,300 kilograms, and the cows carry their calves for a year and can only give birth every 5 years or so. Sexual maturity is only reached by 8 for males and 13 years for females. Pods can have hundreds of family members aging up to 60 years plus. These whales love each other as you love your family. What was so heart-wrenching for me to swallow was the thought of the dying whales communicating to one another, crying out to their mother or their brother. We as human beings could never completely understand exactly what they are saying. But this is reality. I would like to thank you all for being here today. It is the most humble thought that we are all here together to support a sustainable future and help protect the majestic creatures of the sea. Your donations go directly towards campaigns like Operation Green Stop. Without your support and compassionate hearts, Sea Shepherd would not be the powerful and successful movement that it is today. Many pods were spotted and redirected, along with the most recent 200 or so white-sided dolphins that were bravely chauffeured away from the islands by Captain Jessie Treverton and her 2 crew of the speedboat Spitfire. The dolphins got away free from the island, but the girls were arrested by the Danish Navy on the ridiculous charge of harassing a protected species. I'm proud to say that Operation Green Stop 2014 was in all a great success. A total of 55 pilot whales were killed this year, 55 too many, but a triumph compared to the 1,200 that they killed last year. We estimate over 1,000 pilot whales and dolphins are swimming free this year with the help of our crew. Enjoy the rest of Spring Fling, everybody, for the oceans.
Thank you so much, Chloe, from us, and because they don't use the same language as us, also on behalf of the whales.